All right, so this isn't necessarily a tutorial, but I'm just going to sort of talk over the time lapse of this creation. Any minute now. Okay, so what I started out with was just creating a very basic vector version of the scene. So you can see here I'm just making the tree, a couple of leaves that I'll duplicate in After Effects and start animating. Just a very basic version of the scene so that I have a lot of leeway in After Effects. There we go. So we got a big fat planet and some sky, mountains in the background, and then some sort of dark, ominous cloud to the left. There it is. Cool. So now I move into After Effects, and as you can see, I just used the two leaves that I made, duplicate those, and start building clusters of leaves on the tree. And each one I sort of add a wiggle effect to with the rotation so that they're kind of wiggling a little bit and always moving, so it looks like the wind is, rustling them a little bit. So each one on its own is moving, as well as the cluster of leaves. And I'm applying inner shadow to the leaves as well, just to give them a sheen on one side. And as you can see, I just deleted them all because I wasn't a fan of how they were looking, so I'm starting again. And most of this process is honestly trial and error. I didn't have a full plan going into it, but so now what I'm doing also is adding more clusters of leaves that I can throw into the background, darker versions of the leaves. But it's the same deal. It's all clusters of leaves that I'm going to animate slightly so that they're all just rustling a little bit, wiggling back and forth. Each individual leaf as well as the cluster of leaves. And now what I'm doing is using a PNG of a sort of painted paper texture. And with alpha masks, I'm laying that over pieces of the artwork. So I have one over the tree, and I'm also applying it to the ground, and I'll apply it to other elements of the scene as well. So I'm just using an alpha mask so that the the texture is only shown on the object that I want it to be shown on, and then I'm using the multiply mode so that you only get the texture of the paper, not necessarily the color of it. Then I'm just making a shadow, which I applied some distortion effects to it, so it makes it look a little more rough around the edges. But so you can see the same thing. I'm adding the paper texture to every object individually. So I'm adding it to the clouds on the left now. I've added it to the shadow, the ground, the mountains in the background, the moon, the sky. And now rain. So what the rain is, it's literally just it's a path that streaks across the screen, and I use trim paths to basically allow the line to move across the path. And I just loop that. So I've looped the trim path animation and then duplicated that path and covered the screen with it. And the puddle, the splashes are also created entirely in After Effects. Those are just, it's trim paths for the two little splashes that pop up out of it, and then just an ellipse that grows and disappears as it's growing. So, not sure how well that explanation was, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here. It's all trial and error, just trying things out and seeing how they work. But as you can see, pretty much almost all of the work is done in After Effects. And those are some stars. Again, just little rough, uneven shapes that I'm throwing into the background. And then I wanted to make them twinkle, so each one on a loop is growing and shrinking. And then a last-minute deer, because who doesn't love a deer? So again, just drew it in Illustrator. This one I spent a little more time on than the other artwork, than the rest of the artwork. And it took a little while to get that front leg right. I don't know how to draw a deer necessarily. There we go. Brought that sucker in. And same deal, I have to apply the paper texture to him. But another thing I did was animate his head so that he looks like he's breathing. So on a loop, his head is moving up and down. And then I also wanted to tint him to make sure that he looks like he's lit appropriately, right? Because it's night, everything's looking kind of blue, so give him that bluish tint, as well as an inner shadow on the left side so that he's looks like he's being affected by the moonlight. And that is it. So yeah, there's a quick demonstration of how I got that thing done. So be sure to subscribe if you want to see more work that I do, and I'm hoping to pump out more of these little time-lapse tutorials, maybe some more like real tutorials, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, toss a like and subscribe and let me know what you think. See you later.